What is the purpose of life? Well, Frank Turek seems to think he knows, although I think we all realize that he just blindly believes, baldly asserts, and has no evidence whatsoever to support his claims. So let's see Frank explain as he tries to answer a potentially difficult question. We've been looking at tons of Frank Turek videos around here, mostly his Q&A responses, where he'll take a question from the audience and provide a really dumb answer, but I guess that's getting pretty thin, so he's got a new kind of video where he tries to answer questions that he calls difficult questions. Really, it's just the same old nonsense without the audience participation. So, is he any good at it? Well, this is Frank Turek we're talking about here, so I wouldn't hold my breath. Let's go see what he thinks about the purpose of life and why, as usual, Frank Turek hasn't got a clue.
A lot of times I get a question that's controversial about a moral issue. Say it's homosexuality, abortion, divorce, whatever it is. And people will ask, well, what do I think about it?
And your answers suck. I'm sorry, but they do. But that's because your answers are formed around mythology and wishful thinking, not credibility, critical thinking, logic, reason, or evidence. You're telling people to do what it says in an ancient book of primitive thinking written by people without flush toilets and thinking they knew it all about how the world works. You, Frank, are insane.
Well, you really can't answer that question unless you know what the purpose of life is.
I honestly don't care. You haven't proven yourself to be a worthwhile source of factually correct and evidentially demonstrable information. And until you are, most rational people, are not going to take you seriously, nor should they. You're going to be stuck with the clueless, the delusional, and the desperate, which is really what you're after, because they're the ones paying your salary. You appeal to suckers, Frank. Why is this something you're proud of?
You can't know whether something is good or bad unless you know what the purpose of life is.
Oh, please tell us, Frank. What do you think the purpose of life is? But don't just give us your opinion. Show us how you came to that conclusion rationally and intellectually. You'll do the first, you'll entirely ignore the second, because you've never thought about it beyond, it's in this book that I'm emotionally attached to. You have no idea how utterly insane things coming out of your mouth sound, except to the equally insane who just gobble it up. But you don't care, do you? Because they pay your aforementioned salary.
Question, what is the purpose of a football game?
Ultimate purpose? There isn't one. Short-term purpose? To entertain the crowd. To make money for the players and the owners, who are largely just actors of a sort in the game. But it doesn't have any larger purpose. No grand role in life, except to the utter fanatics who paint their bodies and can't go 15 seconds without bringing up the latest travesty in the NFL. In that, there are people who act downright religious when it comes to sports and treat them like they have far more significance than they actually do. I hope you don't think those people are normal any more than you and your fanatics are.
Well, the purpose is, obviously, to score more points than the other team. Well, what if there wasn't a purpose to a football game? Would there be a way to tell whether or not a touchdown was better than an interception if there was no purpose to the game?
Define better. Because according to the rules of football, a touchdown is better than an interception. Games are not won based on the number of interceptions. Points are not scored depending on the number of turnovers that one team gets versus the other. That's not how the game is played. But these are rules that are codified and agreed upon, at least within the NFL and other official football leagues. You can go out and just throw a ball around and not care what it says in the official NFL rulebook. The rules only matter to people who care about the rules.
No, there'd be no way to tell whether a touchdown was better than an interception unless there was a purpose to the game.
Unless there were rules to the game. But the rules are arbitrary, people came up with them, and continue to monitor and alter them to make the game more exciting to the audience and more fair to the players. There is no gospel of football handed down from on high, even though a lot of fanatical football fans might like to think so.
The same thing is true with life, ladies and gentlemen. If there's no purpose to life, there's no right or wrong way to live it.
Okay. Well, since there is no inherent purpose to life, then you're right. There is no right or wrong way to live it. Just like if you don't care about the rules of football, then you're free to go out and just toss a ball around however you choose. You can pretend that the official NFL rulebook applies to every single interaction with a football, but most people are going to think that you're just insane and go do what they want to do anyhow. I think this is a better analogy than you think it is, but for an entirely different reason than you do.
Yet I hear many friends on the other side of the aisle who are atheists or they deny God exists. They say there are certain right ways to live and certain wrong ways to live, and there are certain rights they have that they have, regardless of what I think about or what you think about them.
Because the society in which they live has made those determinations. These are not universal rules, which is what he's going to start arguing for in a moment, I'm sure. My rights in the United States mean nothing at all in China and vice versa. The laws in the United States mean nothing if I'm in Zimbabwe. The people from those countries are responsible for their own sets of rules within their own borders. There are no universal laws and there are no universal rights. Now let's watch Frank try to claim exactly that.
Well, look, if there's no purpose to life, you can't say there's no right way to live it. There are no rights, there are no wrongs unless God exists, unless there's a true purpose to life.
Sorry, but the Constitution says otherwise, and the Constitution means a lot more than that absurd book of multiple choice that you follow, which has no legal validity whatsoever anywhere. And this is where he goes from whatever points he was making before into a complete fantasy. He goes from things that are demonstrably real, football and constitutional rights, to something that he just made up, his imaginary friend, and he tries to place them on the same intellectual level, which fails badly. It's why you have to watch what these apologists are doing very closely. There is always a point at which they take a ridiculous leap of illogic, a claim that cannot be substantiated, because that's where their religious beliefs lie.
Just like there are no right plays or wrong plays if there's no purpose to a game.
But there are right plays and wrong plays if your purpose is to win. But this is not a universal purpose. It is one determined by the people involved. Those plays are codified in the rules, written by humans, just like the Bible was written by humans, and there's no evidence that this God character of yours has any actual reality. Because that's really the problem that Frank and other apologists have. They really need that stuff to be true, or at least they need to convince people that it's true, so they can keep getting paid, so they can keep having influence, so they can keep getting followers and the emotional validation that they desperately want. That doesn't make it so. No, Frank, you don't have enough brains to be an atheist. That's why you're a religious con man. But really, if this is Frank's new video style, color me not impressed. At least with his Q&A sessions, he gets hit with actual questions from the audience, which, granted, he gets to pick and choose which ones get posted to his channel, but at least it isn't a total echo chamber where he's just answering the questions that appear in his own tiny little mind. You notice how this works though, right? He poses a question that is semi-reasonable, although not particularly well understood. Then he leaps to assertions that can't be backed up, thinking that the audience will continue to think positively about his assertions because they still agree with what he said previously. He wants that goodwill to apply to the nonsense that he spouts down the line, and far too often, unfortunately, that works. It's why you have to be careful when it comes to religious apologetics, because just like other con men, they know how to manipulate people to agree with the most absurd thinking imaginable. Unfortunately, people don't tend to call out the religious on their nonsense, which is why it's important that atheists be willing to call a spade and an idiot an idiot. Because either Frank is too stupid to know what he's doing wrong, or he knows exactly what he's doing wrong, and he's being a religious shyster. You pick which one fits the available evidence. Personally, I think it's a little bit of both. He really wants all the religious crap to be true, but he's also reliant on his flock to pay his bills, so he's going to pad his speeches with manipulative language to keep the faithful on the hook, because without them, he goes bankrupt. It's kind of a vicious circle, don't you think? By all means, though, please let me know what you think. Post your ideas in the comments, and let's get a dialogue going. It would be nice if the religious would take part, but mostly, I think they're too terrified to get involved in an unfavorable environment. So, unfortunately, we have to talk about them instead of with them. I guess it's better than nothing, at least until they grow backbones. And I predict that will happen, never.